We're gonna get more reactions this time from a so-called Duterte ally. Joining us is former PDP Laban senatorial candidate, Attorney Jimmy Bondoc. Attorney, good to see you again.
Good evening, ma'am, and thank you for having me. I apologize for my current circumstances. Now I'm in transit.
Oo nga,
But
mukhang you're in the car.
Yes, but I couldn't pass up the chance to talk to you and to at least represent an alternative point of view.
Thank you for taking our call, and that's exactly what we want to get
pleasure.
at, which is the alternative point of view here. I don't know how much of what Attorney Carranza's perspective you heard, but I guess you heard towards the end what he thought about the argument that to neutralize the fact that it was was interpreted as to kill should not be on former President Duterte. In any case, what did you think of the defense's first part of the submission on the merits of the case?
I was more pleased about today. Well, the first day was good enough for me. I think Kaufman did a good job. But the difference is that today I was very happy to hear about his emphasis on the issue on jurisdiction, because I really think that is something that we have to ask before we argue about law and before we argue about guilt or innocence. I think we have to be candid about the first aspect, which is there is a question that we all have to ask. No, are we still capable of judging ourselves as a nation? No, because I think the outsourcing of justice is a very dangerous precedent, and this will be very damaging to our sovereignty. Now, Nicholas Kaufman finally addressed the issue on why did the ICC take 4 years not to initiate the investigation. And I think that is something that is worth waiting for an answer towards, no, because Nicholas Kaufman astutely points out that the prosecution did not initiate within the 1-year withdrawal period. So aside from that, I think the other arguments of Nicholas Kaufman were expounding on his initial arguments that they do not have direct evidence. Yeah. And he was finally he is looking for a causal nexus, which I think all lawyers and even laymen should be able to appreciate. No? Because if we talk about Duterte only, this would be very polarizing. But we should be talking about the basic tenets of the law.
Attorney Bondoc, pasensya na, yes, but I have to counter you a bit there. They did not talk about jurisdiction today. In fact, Attorney Nicholas Kaufman basically spent most of his time in this first part of day 3 of the confirmation of charges hearing trying to cast doubt on the direct causal link between Duterte's speeches and the killing. So wala pong napag-usapan na jurisdiction today. No, that was in previous days.
I beg to disagree, ma'am. No, they did not mention the word jurisdiction, but he finally brought up the fact that the ICC took 4 years before initiating.
Yung delay.
And according to the Rome Statute, no, if it is not initiated and referred to the office of the prosecutor within that year and within the time that we are still parties to the Rome Statutes, then they do not have jurisdiction. So the lack of or the absence of the mention of the word jurisdiction does not mean that he did not bring it up. He actually brought up or laid the predicate. He laid the predicate, no, of the argument of jurisdiction.
So it was just a peripheral mention, but again, he spent most of his time at the start.
That's the very core of jurisdiction.
Yeah,
in fact, the argument of the Duterte allies, no, is really because it was not initiated within the withdrawal period.
Yes, yeah, I understand. I understand, sir. But I watched the whole thing, and he only touched on it very briefly. The bulk of the presentation was about the causal link nga between the speeches and the killings. But anyways,
I agree with that.
Yeah, so yun nga, I mean, I listened to the whole thing. But anyways, since you brought up the issue of jurisdiction, the thing is that the pre-trial chamber already decided on that. I know it's in appeal, pero in October of 23 of last year, they already issued a formal decision on the jurisdiction challenge, saying that because we were bound by the Rome Statute from 2011 to March 16, 2019, they can investigate crimes that happened during that period. Of course, after March
Yes.
17, 2019, they couldn't anymore, but they already issued a decision on that. And I know that the defense is filing an appeal, but the appeals court hasn't issued a stay on the confirmation of charges hearing, which people are taking to mean, okay, proceed with the confirmation of charges, proceed with the timeline, right? What would you have to say to
Yeah.
that?
Well, of course, we are powerless against that, no? The Latin maxim comes to mind, no? Yung who will police the police, or qui custodiet ipsos custodes, no? Kasi there is, I don't think there is any court or a foreign court in this world that will say, oo nga, no? Wala kaming jurisdiction. Because that is something that our nation should be fighting for. No, that we should be creating global awareness about, which is why I started with a question that are we still capable of judging ourselves as a nation? Do we have a functioning judiciary, or are we beginning to outsource even our judicial processes? Now, I know this really sounds like a Duterte fanatic. I know the bashers will be, chomping at the bits, no? But this is a true, sincere question from me because it will really set a bad precedent. I have been placed on record as stating that even after this administration, if someone from our side, let's just call it our side, no? If someone from our side tries to outsource justice to the ICC or to another foreign body for a local perpetrator, I will be against it. I will go against it because I think Filipinos accused abroad or wherever should be tried here on the basis of territoriality.
Attorney, did you watch the whole session kanina?
Yes, I
Okay.
think I caught most of Kaufman's defense.
Okay.
All of it.
He showed a
Kaufman.
slide kasi that the title is Anti-Drug Operations from, I don't know if we have that, but if we have, let's flash it. Anti-Drug Operations from July 1, 2016 to February 8, 2019.
Yes.
3 bars. First bar, drug personalities arrested, 176,021. Second bar, anti-drug operations conducted, 123,441. And finally, third bar, deaths in operation, which is 5,281. Ito na yung medyo confusing because, of course, people have different numbers. Yung official police record was about 6,000 deaths during that time. Amnesty International and other human rights organizations peg it at closer to 30,000. But here is another number today, 5,281. Even though it's smaller than some of the figures being thrown around, that is still 5,000 deaths, no? How do we argue around that?
Two things, no? First of all, we're talking about 49 incidents right here that are mentioned in this case. 49 incidents are the ones that they are showing direct proof for. So we should lay down the parameters to be fair. We are talking about 49 incidents, meaning they have perhaps not enough evidence or even probable cause to even talk about the 5,000. So why are we mentioning the 5,000? No, I think Kaufman made a good argument, stating that there is no smoking gun. No? That they are not citing any direct evidence that PRRD or former President Duterte by direct order asked for these killings to occur. No, so the numbers get confusing only if we mention statistics when it is convenient, no? But the numbers are already here. It's 49, and the reason why I like this is because Attorney Kaufman finally mentioned the elements of crimes against humanity, and the two basic ones are there should be a widespread systematic attack and that it's directed at the civilian population. Now, I don't want to bore your viewers, ma'am, but it's good that he finally defined the legal international definition of what a civilian population is, as opposed to a subjective subgroup. And in this case, and he cited the El Hisri case, no, the Khaled Mohammed Al Hisri precedent, that there an attack on a clearly defined civilian population versus a subjective subgroup, no, and that the attack, so-called attack or the enforcement against the drug pushers were not considered a civilian population, but rather a subgroup that was perceived by expert police or with expertise to separate them from the population. So there's no attack on a civilian population. And again, this is just clarifying what Attorney Kaufman argued.
I'm not sure if he's disputing that there was an attack on the civilian population. He doesn't dispute the deaths. He disputes the common plan that the prosecution said. Prosecution said there was a common plan to attack the civilian population. Pero he acknowledges that there were deaths. And also, Attorney, let me just set the record straight. 49 incidents doesn't mean 49 people dead. It means 49... there were 76 victims of murder and 2 of attempted murder. And of course, we know that this figure, 49, is just a representative sample of the cases. The trial court has also approved 539 other witnesses for this case. So of course, in 49, I know what you're saying, but 49 here is not the extent of all the victims.
Conceded, and I did not mean that. I'm just saying that the numbers are not clear. Because we're relying on multiple sources, and some media reports are still being quoted even though they are not part of the incidents mentioned. So I think we should even us just among us, we should finally come to a certain number so that we can pursue the argument of whether it was a widespread attack and systemic attack against a civilian population.
So the breakdown of 49 is 14, well, I'll get to it later, but there were, for 49 incidents, again, let me just repeat for those watching, 49 incidents doesn't mean 49 victims. 49 incidents covers 78 victims, 76 for murder, 2 of attempted murder. But at this point, Attorney Bondoc, what are you hoping the outcome will be? I mean, of course, I know you're hoping that he will be exonerated and that this does not proceed to trial. But after having seen days 1 and 2, where the prosecution laid out a strong case, complete with pictures, videos, and so on, what are you just hoping for, best case scenario at this point?
Well, we can always hope against hope. Hope is different from what I predict, no? Of course, what I hope for is very obvious. We want the president here. And in fact, I'm not opposed to him being tried here because I would like his innocence or guilt to be tried by a local court. That's my hope, no? But my prediction is very bleak. And I think this is a irreversible damage to the Philippines, no? To the Philippines. And that's very hard to believe from me right now. Completely conceded. But I think somewhere down the line, we will find ourselves agreeing on this point, that this is a damaging turning point in our history as a sovereign nation.
What happened? Why is your prediction a lot more somber? Bakit? Anong nangyari, sir? That made you change?
Always been. It has always been that, no? Ever since he was taken to The Hague, I have been placed on record to have always predicted that we will be very lucky, fortunate if he is ever sent back here.
Are you by any chance in touch with any of the 6 Filipino lawyers that went there on behalf of the Duterte family? Baka may update ka din, sir.
Not currently. They're all my friends though, but not currently.
Okay. Because we're also wondering, our reporter there was had spent a bit of time with them yesterday, and we understand that Attorney Sal Panelo is applying to become ICC accredited.
Yes, accredited.
Through his son. but we're not sure when that application was filed, and when that outcome when that might be decided on. But let me pivot a little bit right now, since you said, okay, you're not very hopeful that that he will be sent back home. But can I just ask you a little bit about the impeachment, since yun nga, you are identified as a so-called Duterte ally? I'm sure you have thoughts as well on what's going on right now.
It has taken on so many new facets. Ronnie Puno, of course, we've all heard about that, the NUP, no? And aside from that, this affidavit of the 18 ex-employees of Zaldico is sort of tied into this supposed quid pro quo undercurrents, no? I think the impeachment, ito mas hopeful ako. Mas hopeful ako that I think there will be an end to it soon, but I think I'm just being hopeful. But I really think that it has been affected by the pronouncement of the VP. That's one. Number two, the seeming lack of enthusiasm from big players in Congress. And three, I think the fatigue of the nation it's just very palpable. Everybody's just tired of impeachments.
Are you hearing from some insiders, sir, baka in terms of the appetite for Congress for another impeachment? Because we've also been asking a few of our sources. They do say that there is a little bit more hesitation this time around. But anyways, by the way, before you answer that, let me just correct the record as well. A hold of the ombudsman, and them weren't, apparently, according to the Philippine Navy.
Marines, some of them were not, some of them was saying that I think that's beside the point. No, doesn't matter if they were ex-Marines or whatever they were. They could have been whatever. What we need to prove is that they were indeed employees of Zaldico and that they had personal knowledge of the things that they have stated in the affidavit. I think that's all that matters. But again, I'm not saying that that's going to definitely affect the impeachment proceedings, but we're being pragmatic here. And what we're saying is it could affect the impeachment. Taken together with the pronouncement of the VP and the hesitation of the congressmen that we mutually know, and big people, big parties declaring that they are not in favor of impeachment, it truly lessens the weight or the fervor towards impeachment. Plus, again, the fatigue, the very palpable fatigue of the people.
Some critics say it's like a Damocles sword hanging over people's head in Congress, with the implicit,
a sword of Damocles.
Damocles, with the implicit message that be careful, if I win, then I'm gonna remember who you guys are. Do you think that's accurate? That's what some of the critics are telling us.
I think there are two swords here. No, the impeachment has been a Damocles sword, the sword of Damocles over Sara, and then her pronouncement has just put up an active defense. So I think there's two swords here. But I think kahit sino po ang magmarunong ngayon on the outcome of this will definitely be wrong, because there's just too much at play.
Okay, and then finally, Attorney Bondoc, just very quickly, are you running for office? There are rumors that you might be interested in a higher position, though.
No, I mean, I ran for the Senate, and I have been severely traumatized by that. No?
I remember we interviewed you during the campaign period.
Yes, which I still appreciate to this day, ma'am. And it's always an open. I'm not one of those people who would be coy and whatever. But I'm truly hesitant this time, and I must listen to the rumblings and to the politics now. But ultimately, I am not ashamed to say that I will wait for the not instructions but the suggestions of our dear Vice President Sara.
You're waiting for suggestions from her.
Yes, because that's the political aspect, and I don't
Oh.
I don't hide these things. With her support, there's just an increased chance, no.
Meaning, if she tells you to run, then you say yes.
Yes, because the political capital is obviously
Yeah.
with her, and I'm here to help through her. On my own, I don't think I have much political capital, to be quite frank.
Well, you're pretty influential online, but we shall leave that there. Thanks so much for talking to me again, Attorney Jimmy Bondoc, former senatorial
God bless
candidate.
everybody.
Salamat, sir.
Thank you.